Okay guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the BMW N52 engine and to not make any of these mistakes when you buy this engine. A lot of you are making these mistakes on a daily basis and still going out buying them, and even if you own them, you're still making these mistakes. And I'm going to address all the mistakes you guys are doing that's making your cars unreliable, run like crap, having loads of codes, and you guys not managing to figure them out. So I'm going to go over what you need to be doing correctly and how to avoid these stupid mistakes people make every day on this engine and why it ends up getting such a bad rap.
Goddamn, get it done, will ya? Woo. When the blow up now, everybody's so unusual with it. Shit. But said times in his rhymes, cause his memories. We running through New York, so you know.
Okay guys, so in front of us we have the BMW N52 engine. Now, I want to go over a lot of the mistakes people do when they're looking or they buy this engine. So the first one a lot of people make, and I've said it from day one, and I still say it from this day, is to please avoid Chinese parts and do not use Chinese parts on this car. That is a big mistake you are making while doing that, because they do not run at the power that the DME is requesting and all the other sensors on the car. So I do ask you, and I strongly, and I keep saying this, do not use Chinese parts. The most common one is the oil filter housing. Now, a lot of people will use a Chinese oil filter and it will disintegrate, causing loss of oil and starvation to all the Vanos system. Now, in turn, what that will do is damage the Vanos solenoids, which sit right down here. Many of you guys know them. And then a load of you will go out and buy cheap Vanos solenoids. And that does not work. You cannot buy cheap solenoids. They have never and still haven't invented ones that can run with this engine perfectly without issue. The second one is a lot of people believe cleaning them is going to help. Do not message on this video, do not comment on this video saying you have cleaned them. I don't want to hear it. If you're cleaning them, you can't afford this car, get rid of it. That's the first thing you should do. You're making the mistakes already by trying to clean them. Do not follow these videos that tell you to do that. It does not work. It is a temporary fix, will get you down the road, your engine light will be back on. Do not believe anyone who tells you clean them is the way. That is a big mistake that many people think they can run these cars cheap. They watch these videos and think this is easy. It's got a Vanos code, they'll go and buy it, think they know what they're doing, clean it from a YouTube video, and it doesn't fix the fault. And then they realize they got conned up their batty because of that reason, that they couldn't fix the issue with cleaning them. Because I get a lot of people, especially in the US, buying these cars because of Vanos codes, thinking it's the solenoids and thinking clean them's gonna work and they're gonna end up with a good car. And that ends up backfiring on them big time, because that is not the issue. The next mistake a lot of people do when they actually buy this engine is the oil filter, the filter inside it, which goes into the oil filter, which is the strainer for all the oil, which captures to stop so much oil go into the Vanos system, ends up breaking or is missing, because a lot of garages pull the oil filter out of the cap and then they don't realize that is there. And when they don't realize that part is crucial for the Vanos system to not overfill it with oil, and that way it can work the way it should, they throw it away, put the oil filter back on, think there was nothing there, and that's it. And then a lot of people end up with the Vanos codes because of that issue. The next one, which is a big mistake which a lot of people make, they will go out, they will buy an N52 engine and think all of them are the same. This is a complete myth. The N52 B23 only has one disavow, which will be the large one, not the small one. The N52 B25, if it's N53, will have the two disses if it's an M Sport. And if it's not an M Sport, I believe it still only comes with the one on the B25. The best engine you can buy is the N52 B30. They come with a 3-stage manifold, which a lot of you always message me asking if you have it. A lot of you go out your way, you'll buy this engine and then feel like crap because you don't have the 3-stage manifold or you don't make the power. When looking for these engines, make sure it's the 3 litre. Otherwise, you are more than likely not to have the 3-stage manifold on your car, and you can't blame nobody else apart from yourself. I mention it in all my videos about it, and it's a car I wouldn't buy without it because I know how underpowered they are without the 3-stage manifold. They're also very hard to source. Not only are they very hard to source, to tune them to get them to run right is not easy either. Obviously, I do have the ECUs to make them run with the 3-stage manifold that make it actually run perfectly, and obviously it's tuned as well perfectly. But that doesn't mean that you should just go out your way and buy that. I would strongly recommend when looking for one of these, you buy it with the 3-stage manifold. When you go and look at the car, it's very, very easy to spot. You'll have one disser down here and you'll have the other one right up here. They're not hard to realize if it's got twin dissers. The next thing on these, which is very, very crucial, and I've explained to a lot of you guys, is don't follow the manufacturer recommendations on the oil. A lot of you will buy this car, service it, and still choose to use 5W30, and a lot of garages will. If you're taking your car to garages, tell them not to be using 5W30. Use 5W40. There is a lot of people who follow my recommendations and have realized a significant drop in oil consumption and the car not using oil at all between service intervals. That is because as the engine wears, the oil is no more doing its job. 5W30 is no longer protecting it the way it should. These engines run hot, therefore the oil is going to break down a lot quicker. As the engine wears, the oil wears. You need a thicker oil to actually make it run better and not lose oil. Now, if you've got the N52 B23 or B25, they suffer valve stem seal problem. Therefore, the valve stem seals get dry and they end up damaging the valve stem seals. Again, that is all due to people neglecting the car, not doing the servicing on time, not changing the oil, and not checking the right things on time, like the CCV, which will blow every gasket inside the engine if there's too much pressure build up. So things like that need to be checked on this engine. So I strongly recommend you only use 5W40 on this engine. The next one on these, which is a big mistake a lot of you guys always message me every time about, is using cheap Chinese oil filter housing gaskets on these engines. Do not make that mistake and buy cheap. The saying is, buy cheap, buy twice. If you intend to use cheap oil filter housing gaskets for the oil cooler as well, they're gonna leak again. Only use genuine. Genuine ones are about £30, which is probably about $50, and it will outlast the car, because the way I see it, all BMW's parts are designed to last 100K. Now, if every gasket's designed to last that way, then at the end of the day, it's a job you want to do once and not have to worry about doing again. It's a big mistake a lot of people end up doing, and then they end up wondering why their car is still draining oil, and that is because of them gaskets that they've used. The next one on these engines is the water pump, which sits down there. A lot of people will go on eBay and just buy the cheapest electric water pump they can find. A lot of garages in the US will do the same. They'll buy a Chinese water pump thinking it's going to work. 2 weeks later, it burns out and the car's overheating again. Do not put a Chinese water pump on your BMW N52 engine. No case whatsoever. This engine overheats, especially silver magnesium valve cover one. This will pull the head bolts out completely and completely destroy the engine. Therefore, you'll need a new head gasket, and whatever other internals are going to be needed from the car overheating as well. So do not make that mistake. The next one I want to point out on here, which is very, very, very important, is the jump cables. These I've mentioned many, many times in my video. Do not jump start this car from the rear of the trunk. That is purely because, like I said, you send the wrong voltage to the car spike and it will destroy the modules. Many, many people are thanking me for saving their car, because many, many people have gone and done it, destroyed their FRMs and destroyed their car to the point it won't start. Always jump your car from these terminals here at the front of the car. This is one thing a lot of people do, especially on M52 where the battery's draining, and they will jump it from the rear. You do not jump a BMW from the rear of the car by any means at all. And I strongly recommend not to use another car to jumpstart these cars. If you're not responsible enough or capable enough to know how to look after these cars and how to run them, as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't own this car. And I say that with strong intentions as well, that you should not own it, and I do stick by them words. If you can't do what I'm telling you on this video, which are very, very simple, don't own this car. Another mistake that a lot of people make on this engine as well is a lot of people go and buy these because they're not running or they're not running correctly. And a lot of the time it's because people have changed the CCV, the last owner. They didn't realize the map sensor at the back here, and they pulled the manifold off and ripped the wires out of the map sensor right at the back here. That is very, very easily done. And I know many people that have done it because they don't realize it's there because of all the cabling here, all the electronic wires running over. So they just unbolt it, don't realize it, pull the manifold up, and it rips out of its connections. And then the people asking and wondering why their car isn't running perfectly. And this is a common problem that a lot of people end up doing. A lot of people don't realize it's there, and they just pull the manifold up and rip it out because they're trying to force it out thinking it's stuck on something. It is something I strongly recommend to avoid and try and be careful when removing it. Make sure you do remove that because the pins come out, it's very, very hard, and it will cause your car not to start. That's the manifold absolute pressure sensor, and it's crucial for all the other sensors on the car to relate to each other, to communicate, and to obviously make this car run properly and to start, otherwise you'll get no crank, no start. Another one down here is the ground wire that goes to the ignition coils, as you'll see right here. This ground wire itself, a lot of people will remove their valve cover, take off all the ignition coils. When they change their valve cover, take this off and then not realize what they've done because they're in a rush to get it all off. There, a lot of people don't remember how to put the engine back, and they forget this ground wire, which is so important, and this will cause your car to not even crank if this ground wire is not attached. So do make sure, if you do remove it, to replace this, because I get this asked a lot, where a lot of people forget to replace that ground strap going to the ignition coils, which, you know, controls the voltage to them. Without it, the car won't start because it will have too much voltage and it can end up damaging the engine and cause too high of a spark. That's what that ground wire is there for, to stop that. And the computer knows if it's not there, you won't get a crank and start at all without that ground strap being placed on the ignition coil harness. Okay guys, so there you have it. These are the most common mistakes people make when they buy their BMW N52 engine. And this is something I keep seeing still 2 years later, since I've come along, daily people messaging me on my Instagram, on my YouTube channel, constantly asking what this, that, all these fault codes. They're still having problems with their car. And that's why I've done this video in relation to all these comments and all these questions, to help a lot of you guys understand what you're doing wrong on this engine. All I ask of you is just please, please, please don't use Chinese parts on this car. Your car will not run correctly. Cleaning anything on an engine is only temporary. It is not going to solve your issue. So do not come to me after you've cleaned them still saying the problem is still there. It's not going to rectify your issue. The problem you're going to need to replace your solenoids for genuine BMW dealer ones. And that's the same for any other thing on the car. Replace it with genuine. Do not buy cheap, or you will buy twice. The same with the oil. Do not be using 5W30 on the BMW N52. If your car has hit over 100K, I strongly, strongly recommend use 5W40. I've said it from day one and I strongly believe in it. I have many, many people using it and who actually believe me and have not used a drop of oil since they switched. And I hope these guys comment to actually show you guys what I'm saying is the truth. So I hope this video is going to clear up a lot of your issues regarding this engine. Thank you very much for watching. It's BMW Dr. Dean here, and goodbye.